Before immigrating to the United States in 1973, Rabbi Lapin studied Torah, physics, economics, and mathematics in Johannesburg, London, and Jerusalem. Lapin was the founding rabbi of Pacific Jewish Center, a now legendary Orthodox synagogue in Venice, California. He's a frequent speaker for hundreds of groups, institutions, organizations, and companies. Okay, too many to list here. He was a keynote speaker at the Congressional Bipartisan opening of the 106th Congress in Washington, D.C. Rabbi Lapin is a noted writer. His articles have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, National Review, Commentary, the Jewish Press, and many other periodicals. His first book, America's Real War, was a national bestseller. His second book, Buried Treasures, The Secrets for Living from the Lord's Language, was published in 2001. His third book was published by John Wiley in 2002. Continues selling well in America and has also been translated into Chinese and Korean. His latest project is the production of audio CDs that present thousands of years of Jewish wisdom emanating from the Bible in ways that impact and improve modern day life. I now give to you Rabbi Daniel Lapin.
Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate the introduction. And I was a little worried that this particular time slot comes right after lunch. And I had the vision of people sitting back for a post-lunch rest. And it falls to me to somehow disturb the slumber and somehow, well, I immediately hit upon the only solution to this, and that was, I thought I would lead you all in a rousing rendition of that anti-Semitic classic, Fiddler on the Roof song, If I Was a Rich Man. And anti-Semitic, of course, simply because there's no Jew on earth who would sing a song, If I Was a Rich Man. I don't know about you, but we sing When I Am a Rich Man. But apparently the enthusiasm everybody has for the work of the Institute will make that painful song completely unnecessary. Still, I thank you all very much indeed for this opportunity and for this honor. And if I can also thank those, many of whom are, or some of whom at least I should say, are responsible for me being here, but more importantly, people from whom I've learned an enormous amount. And Lou Rockwell, of course, tops the list. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And also, all I've learned from you, Lou, over the years. Appreciate that. Walter Block, there he is. So much, learned so much from Walter, and he's done so much for me, so thank you very much indeed as well. Really appreciate that. Kurt Doolittle, is he here? Kurt make it? Kurt doesn't seem to be here, but he's somebody in that category. Sam Silver from Atlanta, who really was one of the first to expose me to the interface between religion and economics, drove me here from Atlanta this morning. And needless to say, obviously, the spirit of Murray Rothbard hovering palpably in the room, I think. I think Murray used to enjoy being a rabbi to a rabbi. And for my part, of course, I was very happy to sit at his feet and drink of the wisdom, which I did in good measure. So that was always a great pleasure and something that was very comfortable for me. You know, one of the first things I did when Lou extended this invitation, and he didn't give me a lot of time to say yes or no. I mean, I was ready to say yes right away, which I did before I even knew what was entailed. But the first thing I did was I went to see, like, who are the people who've given this Lou Church Memorial Lecture in the past? And I've got to be honest, I was immediately overwhelmed by an extremely uncomfortable inferiority complex. The list was one after the other, prominent economists, people who have published, in some cases, dozens of books. And and I thought I was going to have to come here with a paper bag over my head somehow and just do my thing. But, then I thought about it, and I thought, it's the Lou Church Memorial Lecture. Lou Church made money. He was a businessman. And so it doesn't matter how many books you've published, it matters how many books you've sold. That's the way I looked at it. And so we're, I may not have published that many books or audio CDs, but we are approaching 250,000 sold in the last few years, 3 or 4 years or so. And I'm hoping that with your good assistance, we'll push it over the top of that magic number in a short while. But that is, yes, I do believe passionately in the business system. I believe in making money. I do. And I believe in making money because my culture and religious background assures me that in a reasonably free market and in a world of honest transparency in interactions, a world where I don't believe I have to pull a fast one over somebody else in order to make a dollar, because I don't think my dollar represents his loss. In such a world, making money is a certificate of good performance. It's a mark of virtue. That's exactly what it is. And so I began realizing a number of years ago that there was an area of research that needed looking at. And the area of research was very simple, which was, why is it that Jews are disproportionately good with money? Now, I realized, of course, that if anybody tried to do this, anyone studied this who was not circumcised, they would be instantly demonized for bigoted anti-Semitism. How dare you even notice that Jews are disproportionately good with money? Well, Jews represent just about 2% of the American population, and in the Forbes 400 list, that means there should be between 8 and 9 Jews, maybe. And there's never fewer than 60, usually closer to 100. Stop that! It doesn't mean there are no poor Jews. It just means Jews are disproportionately good with money. And I realized that if this area of research was going to be done, it would have to be done by me, because I realized this is probably the only field in all of academia where removal of a small piece of skin converts bigotry to research. Okay, it doesn't have to be that small. I mean, just a piece of skin. All right, there it is. Okay. That's what does it. And I thought we need to really study this and understand, why is it that Jews have excelled? And I obviously looked at all the main myths and theories. One of them, obviously, is taken from the Oxford English Dictionary, where the word Jew appears as a verb, as in to Jew somebody. And I thought, well, maybe Jews excel because they rip people off all the time. And there's no question about it that feeling free to rip people off all the time is a massive advantage in business for a limited period of time. So I studied that and found that, in fact, by the way, I researched, particularly through the South. I really enjoyed that because I found small town after small town. Natchez was one town in the South where there were Jewish people who had done business with non-Jews in the vicinity for years, decades. The relationships were long and durable and warm and positive, and friendships were part of the business relationships. And I found this to be standard across the country. It's not possible to have long-term friendly relationships with people you're doing business with if the theory and governing principles of those people is rip them off. So I had to reject that theory, and there were a number of other such theories. One of them, of course, is the well-known racial theory, that the Cossacks killed off all the poor Jews, leaving the rich ones to pass the money gene down in their sperm. And needless to say, modern medical science has yet failed to identify this mysterious gene. And in any event, if there was such a thing, you wouldn't find the popular phenomenon of usually third or fourth generation of wealthy dynasties frittering it away and somehow or another being populated by scions and heirs with zero economic capacity whatsoever. So the notion that somehow rich Jews were managed to save themselves and pass this on, that just made absolutely no sense. And neither did any of the other theories. leaving only one explanation for why it is that Jews are disproportionately good with money. The primary main explanation has to do with Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister was the first human being in history to run a mile in under 4 minutes in the year. You're good. You are good. Have you noticed that? People who are into economics are into reality. They're people who know things. How many, now, I mean, most you go to a college audience, nobody knows, May 1954. Anyway, there it is, May 1954, does the mile in 4 minutes. Anybody know how many people ran the mile in 4 minutes the next year? Approximately 1, 10, 100, how many? Yeah, actually a few dozen. And how about in the last 5 years? Hundreds, right? Thousands probably. I don't know the exact number, but it's limitless. Well, if it's so easy to run a mile in 4 minutes, that thousands of people have done it since May 1954, how come nobody did it in January 1954 and they could have got all the fame and fortune? It's one very simple thing. It's the same reason that last year hundreds of people went up Everest, but when Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay did it a year earlier in 1953, it was astounding. Now, I'm not saying I could do it, and I couldn't run a mile in 4 minutes either, but it's totally doable. You know why? Because we now know that it can be done. That makes all the difference, because we are predominantly spiritual creatures with a physical outfit. We are not physical creatures with a spiritual dimension. We are not people with a soul. We are souls with a body. That's how important your mental state is. That's how important it is in health. When people speak about holistic health, we're talking about the ability of the mind to impact the body. Lewis Thomas writes engagingly about the ability of the human mind to get rid of warts using placebos. It's astonishing. We can do anything with our minds as long as we believe in it. You've got to believe it can be done. You've got to believe it's worth doing. And ladies and gentlemen, the single most important reason why Jews have excelled in business over the years is because they have believed implicitly, without a shadow of a doubt, that making money is in and of itself a good thing. That when you make money, you are de facto doing something good. You do not have to give it away afterwards in order to validate your virtue. You don't have to be the modern equivalent of the ancient pirate who raped and plundered all his life and then built a palace and a church for the bishop in order to acquire legitimacy and respectability and prestige in the community. Not like that at all. If you became wealthy and were not a charitable person, you've still done good. It's reprehensible, but you've certainly still done good. And so, for Jews, it's a perfectly natural phenomenon. By the way, I wish what I was saying were true. For all Jews. But, I can't mislead you without stating clearly that, unfortunately, somewhere between 60 and 75% of the people who identify as Jews in the United States of America would happily stone me for almost everything I am saying today, because they don't believe it. That's one of the reasons that you do not find quite the same level of Jewish entrepreneurship in the community that you used to find a few generations ago. So there have been serious and tragic changes, and I'll probably have a minute or two to sort of explain how and why that is